Welcome to another edition of Cadet Chat with Dr. K. I'm here with a very special guest, our new Assistant Superintendent for Instruction, Mrs. Kristen Polini. Kristen, welcome to the show today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you a part of the Cadet Nation. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey on your way here to this position here in the district?
Sure. So I graduated from St. Bonaventure University, a very proud alum, and immediately started my teaching career at Gates Child High School. I was a high school English teacher there for 10 years, and then moved over to the Spencerport Central School District, where I served as a high school assistant principal for 5 years, and then in district office there as the director of curriculum for 5 years as well. And right around this time last year, I was interviewing for this position and came to the Hilton School District on June 1st.
Great. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself personally, if you're willing to do so.
Sure. So I am a Hilton resident and have been for quite some time. I have 4 children in the district. I have twin sons, Andrew and Barrett, who are sophomores at the high school, and I have twin daughters who are 5th graders at Northwood Elementary, Reese and Reagan. My husband and 4 children and I live in North Greece, just around the corner from Northwood Elementary, and we've enjoyed the Hilton School District so much as residents that when the position came open to apply here and to expand my career, I jumped on the chance to do so.
Great. I think one of the things I appreciate about you being an administrator here and also a resident is when you're making decisions, you're not just making them for the Hilton community, you're making them for your children as well. So I think that carries great weight, as do I with my children attending the district. So tell us a little bit for our viewers that might not know the role of Assistant Superintendent for Instruction. What does your day-to-day look like, and what are some of the big picture goals that you have for the district?
So no 2 days are ever the same. They're typically busy from start to finish. A lot of times I'm in meetings or visiting classrooms. This year I've had the opportunity to get in and do some observations, which is great because that's an opportunity for me to really see lessons start to finish and see the instruction in the district. I work very closely with the 5 principals to look at where our current state of curriculum instruction and assessment might be and where we may like to go. We look at data in order to inform some of our decisions. We have conversations with teachers and are always looking at that forward approach to how can we take what's already great and make it even better, whether that's the environment for our students, whether that's the resources that they have available. So a lot of times I'm in meetings this year to really look at what's our current state and where are we. I try to be really mindful of getting the views of many different stakeholders, so meeting with teachers as well as administrators, being in classrooms and talking to students when I'm there and not interrupting things. So kind of gathering all of that information to figure out where it's best for us to go next. You know, we're constantly looking at evaluating our programs, our offerings at the high school, the levels of support that we offer to students, the enrichment that we give. So it really, I can be in classrooms some days and in and out of meetings other days, and I'm in most of the buildings throughout the course of the week, so no 2 days are ever really the same.
Great, thank you for sharing that. So as you enter the district, I know that you and I have worked closely together with you carrying out your entry plan and being on a listening tour and talking to all different groups within the learning community about their thoughts on how things are currently going for the district around instruction. We've also are working through that process of developing a new strategic plan. So I know looking at some of that initial data, there have been certain feedback points around instruction. So as you enter the district and you're having those conversations, what are you seeing and what are you hearing?
So one of the biggest things that I noticed, I felt it as a parent, it attracted me to the district, and now I'm seeing it tenfold when I'm visiting classrooms, is that teachers, staff, and administrators are really first and foremost here for the students. There's a lot of support and a lot of opportunity to wrap around students' different needs. So that's been something really impressive. We do a great deal of work over the summer with curriculum writing, so that was kind of the entry into the district. I saw a lot of the work as it was being done on the ground floor, if you will, before implementation, and there's a real thoughtfulness with how we implement state standards, criteria of the IB programs where appropriate, and relevant content for students. And there's a real care given by teachers to create content and curriculum that helps to address student skills as well as teach them the knowledge they need in the future. And there's consistently a look at that vertical alignment about what comes next, and so what prerequisite skills do we have to teach. So I think there's a lot of really great just student first centered approach to instruction and to curriculum here in the district, and there's a lot of different opportunities between the different planners that students have at the elementary levels, as well as the different course selection that we have at the high school for students to pursue areas of interest and passion. I've also noticed a lot of peak moments that our teachers create for students, whether that be through a certain project that they do or through an experience that they provide. There's a lot of those moments that kids can remember about their high school or middle school or elementary school experience as they move forward.
Great. So this can be a daunting job. It's a rather large district, 4,500 students, over 1,000 staff members. You have some supervision roles, and you are moving the work forward. What are some of the systems that you have inherited, or help someone from our community understand how it kind of looks like when an initiative either comes up grassroots or is worked through in collaboration with the Office of Instruction?
One of the things that we've made a priority and a focus over the course of this year is to make sure that we are soliciting stakeholder feedback before, during, and after implementation of any sort of initiative. So, for instance, when I came on in June, we were beginning to look at moving our really great reading program up into second grade with the HD Word program. And as that implementation, there was training in June, implementation happened. We just recently put out a survey to get feedback from teachers to learn about what's working, what's not working, and what should some of our next steps be. So that's a system that we're trying to put into place, so we're continuously understanding what district initiatives or programs might look like when they're in the hands of students and in the hands of teachers, and then using that feedback to make small tweaks here and there as necessary. And then we'll come back to that at the end of the year as well and evaluate also. So we try to do that through surveys, we try to do it through visiting meetings with individuals, and just keeping in communication both with the teachers that are working on any of those initiatives, but also the building principals and assistant principals, and making sure that the Office of Instruction and building administration are all on the same page and are able to support teachers and staff in bringing those initiatives to fruition.
Great. So you alluded to this a little bit in your answer right there, but can you talk to us a little bit more about your leadership style and what you think good leadership is?
It's important to me that I recognize any leader is going to have blind spots just based on personal experience or lack thereof of specific experience. And although I've worked in pre-K to 12 education for a long time, I haven't taught in every single one of those classrooms. And so I recognize that there's a lot of expertise among the organization as a whole. And so part of my leadership style is to put myself in situations where I can hear from experts and then take all that information in and work collaboratively to make decisions that move forward. And my hope in that sense is that we don't step into those blind spots that can lead us down a path of, oh, now we need to start all over again, or we missed the mark on this because I didn't consider something that I didn't know was going to happen. So I really try to be as collaborative as possible in any of that decision making. I don't have a problem making a decision, but I also recognize that decisions made in silos are typically not your most successful ones. Mm-hmm. So my style of leadership might be a little bit slower in the sense that I like to gather as much information as possible, and then I like to make a plan, and then I like to put checks in place to make sure that we're following through on that plan. We're in that process right now with our long-range equity plan with the district improvement team, and we're in a similar process right now with MTSS as well to make sure that we have an implementation where we can support our students' tier 1, 2, and 3 needs appropriately.
All right, thank you. So we talked a little bit about leadership. Along your leadership development, who are some people who have inspired you or influenced you in the way that you do the work that you do?
I think I've really taken lessons from every leader that I've worked with. I think we've all worked with some leaders where we see traits and say, oh, I want to do it just like that, or I really like when someone who leads me does this. And at the same time, we've probably all had leaders where we say, well, I think I'm going to do that differently, you know, when I'm in that seat. So I could give you a pretty long list of individuals from whom you know, I've learned a great deal. Many of them were colleagues of mine in Spencerport. So the assistant superintendent for instruction there, Ty Zinkowicz, was definitely a huge influence, as well as some of my colleagues there, Corey Allen, Mike Sorbera. I learned really from everybody that's around me. My biggest teacher probably in leadership has been my mom. And she was both a career woman in corporate America and running a household with 2 very busy kids, and could really kind of do it all with grace at all times somehow. So I always try to aspire to be a little bit more like her. I'm working on my patience. She's a little more patient than I am.
Well, that's an impressive list, and thank you for being vulnerable and sharing those with us and the viewers. So let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned this in an earlier answer. Tell us a little bit more about professional development, curriculum development, and new teacher development. What are your thoughts on those topics?
They're all very, very important. And one of the things I always say about teaching it was exciting for me, but it was also maddening, is that I don't know if you can ever arrive. Just when you start to feel like you're really doing everything right, you walk into a colleague's classroom and you see, that's so great, I don't do that. And so there's an excitement in that because you can always get better, but that can always be kind of maddening. So what I think is really important about professional development is to think about those things that have good staying power. So if we look at something like strong assessment design will last you for years to come. And so I try to be really mindful about any sort of professional development opportunities or things that will stand the test of time versus what might be the newest and flashiest at the moment, because it's really easy to get distracted by that. I think you also talked about curriculum in there as well.
Yeah, curriculum development and then that teacher development. I know they all interweave with each other, but yeah, anything else as far as, can you maybe help some of our viewers understand, sometimes the term curriculum gets used, but it may not be something that's curriculum. Maybe help us out with that.
Yeah, it's a common question right now. I think a lot of times we think of lesson plans as being the curriculum, or sometimes we think of a resource like a book as being the curriculum, but curriculum is really driven from state standards. And so you start first with state standards and you break those down over the course of a school year or over the duration of a course of study, and start to think about what is the order in which those standards make the most sense, and then how will I determine if students have met those standards. So curriculum really begins with the standard, then it goes all the way to the end of how will students demonstrate knowledge of this standard or an ability to meet this standard, and then you plan backwards to set learning objectives or outcomes for students along the way. And that's really what curriculum is. It's the standards, it's the assessments, and it's the learning outcomes. And then we have a number of things with International Baccalaureate that also are incorporated into that as well. But I would consider that kind of stage 1 and stage 2 of curriculum writing, and then what we see in implementation, like the lesson plans or the resources, that's how we deliver curriculum. And that can be something that might be a little bit different from your classroom to my classroom. If I like to teach that through poetry and you like to teach that through a short article, but we're both getting to the same learning outcome, the resource might look different in our classrooms, but the curriculum would still be the same.
Excellent, excellent definition and explanation. I hope people appreciate that. That's something I think that a lot of people can sink their teeth into and understanding. So, and then if they have questions, they can always reach out to the district. And,
absolutely.
We can answer those. And I know that we have much information posted on the website when we start to talk about our curriculum development and some of the other things happening out of the Office of Instruction. So as we move forward, and we're going to kind of wind down here, outside of working as the Assistant Superintendent for Instruction, what do you like to do outside of work for some balance?
So for the most part, I spend a lot of my time with my children and in their different endeavors and events. All of my children are involved in some way, shape, or form in Hilton Athletics. My daughters play Hilton Select basketball. My sons play on the Hilton varsity hockey team and golf team as well. So we spend a lot of time cheering them on the sidelines, or I do coach my daughter's basketball team with a number of other great young athletes in our district. That's a really fun thing that I enjoy doing over the winter. In the summer months, I caddy for one of my daughters in all of her golf tournaments, and my husband caddies for my other daughter. So we spend a lot of time either golfing as a family or running the golf tournament circuit. So we do a lot of that. I do enjoy working out as well, and I dabble a little bit bit in photography, but I'm not very talented.
Wow, great. That's awesome that you find some time, and especially the priority you put on your family. And one of the things that I've noticed working and living in the same district is that some of those things can sometimes overlap. So you get to spend some quality time with your family, but you're also doing it sometimes in a work capacity. Like we ran into each other at the basketball game the other night, and you were select coach, administrator, parent, the whole 9 yards. And the same thing recently at the Northwood Theater Club presentation. So that's great to see you living and working in the same area. So just as we close out this episode of the Cadet Chat, I just wanted to ask you, is there anything that I didn't ask you to share that you'd like to share about the Office of Instruction with our audience?
I don't think so. I think we covered an awful lot. I appreciate you having me here and giving me a chance to talk a little bit about curriculum instruction and assessment. Absolutely.
And we continue to be so excited to have you as a new member of the team, and we love your new ideas that you bring, and we're really excited to see how you can support and collaborate and continue to move the district forward. So thank you for being on the show. Once again, I want to thank Mrs. Kristen Polini, our Assistant Superintendent for Instruction, for joining us today. Thank you very much, and have a great day.